All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle one of the most fundamental decisions you have to make when you're building out microservices, and we'll be using some fantastic guidelines from the engineers at Wix. We're talking about synchronous versus asynchronous communication. So I want you to picture this. When your services need to communicate, what does that conversation actually sound like? Is it like a direct phone call where one service calls another and just waits on the line demanding an answer right now? Or is it more like sending a message in a bottle, trusting that it'll get picked up and handled down the line? It sounds simple, but trust me, how you answer that question can literally make or break your entire system. Because really, what's the end game here? No matter what we're building, it all comes back to these three things, right? We want systems that can scale up, systems that are resilient, meaning they don't fall over when something goes wrong, and systems that are actually possible to maintain without losing our minds. And the way our services talk to each other, that is absolutely central to hitting those goals. Okay, so let's walk down that first path, the one that probably feels the most natural to a lot of us. The direct path, synchronous communication, usually through something called a remote procedure call, or RPC. This is that direct phone call we were talking about. Your first service, the caller, dials up another service, and then it just waits. It's completely blocked. It can't do anything else until it gets a response. It's an immediate, tightly woven conversation, for better or for worse. And here's the big trade-off. On the one hand, yeah, the logic is usually simpler to write, and you get really strong data consistency because everything happens right then and there. But, and this is a huge but, you're creating strong coupling. Your services are now tethered together. If the service you're calling is slow, or even worse, if it fails, well, your service is going down with it. It's a classic domino effect waiting to happen. But sometimes, you absolutely need this direct path. Think about a user clicking the Buy Now button. The billing service has to know immediately if the payment went through. It can't just fire off a request and hope for the best later. The user is sitting there, waiting for that confirmation screen. The business logic itself demands that instant, synchronous result. So if RPC is that direct, tightly coupled path, what's the alternative? Well, let's explore the other fork in the road. This is the resilient path, asynchronous messaging, and it totally changes the game. Now, this is our message in a bottle. One service simply publishes a message, usually to some kind of message bus like Kafka, and then its job is done. It just moves on. It doesn't wait around for an answer. Down the line, other services can pick up that message and do their work whenever they're ready. The key word here is decoupled. You know, the upsides here are massive, especially for big distributed systems. Loose coupling means one service can fail and it won't cause a chain reaction. This makes your system way more resilient and easier to scale. The catch? Well, you have to get comfortable with something called eventual consistency. It means your data will be consistent, eventually, just not instantaneously. And that can make your logic a little more complex to manage. And a perfect use case for this is something like a user profile update. When a user changes their name, the main user service can just fire off an event that says, hey, user123 updated their profile, and then immediately tell the user, saved. It doesn't have to wait for the analytics service or the marketing email service to do their thing. They can pick up that message in their own time, and the user's experience is never slowed down. And that right there, that strong coupling, that's the fundamental danger of taking the synchronous path everywhere. It creates a brittle chain where one weak link can bring everything down. But on the other hand, you have this. This is the superpower of the asynchronous path. Your services become independent islands. They can fail, they can scale, they can be updated all on their own without creating a system-wide meltdown. This contrast is the heart of the whole decision. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, but how do you actually pick one? This is where having a clear framework like the one from Wix's guidelines becomes so incredibly valuable. It helps us make a deliberate choice. Let's just walk through this. You have to ask yourself, does the service making the call have to wait for an answer to continue its own work? If yes, that's pointing you towards RPC. Is this a side effect, something that can happen a few seconds or even minutes later? Well, that's a perfect fit for messaging. Is your absolute top priority strong, immediate consistency? Go sync. Is it resilience and the ability to scale? Go async. So really, if you only remember one thing, make it this. When the business process absolutely cannot move forward without an immediate answer, you choose sync. For pretty much everything else, especially for things that happen in the background, choose async. You're buying yourself resilience and scalability. But here's the thing. Choosing the async path is just the beginning. It's an incredibly powerful choice, but it comes with its own set of challenges. And to really master it, you need to know the patterns. And this is so important. In any complex system, things are going to fail. That's a guarantee. Async systems don't stop failure. They're just designed to survive it. That means you have to plan for what happens when, say, step 1 of a process succeeds, but step 2 fails. You have to design for partial failure. Which brings us to a really powerful solution with a fantastic name, the zombie pattern. The idea is simple. Instead of creating something like a new user order in its final active state, you first create it as a harmless zombie. It exists in the database with a pending status, but it's invisible and doesn't affect anything else in the system. So here's the play-by-play. Step 1, you save that new order as pending. Step 2, you fire off all the async events needed, maybe to process the payment, update inventory, whatever. Then, step 3, only after all of that background work comes back and says, we're good, does a final process flip the status to active. If anything fails along the way, no problem. The order just stays a harmless zombie, and you've prevented broken data from ever getting into your system. So when you boil it all down, the point isn't that async is better than sync, or the other way around. That's the wrong way to think about it. The goal of a great software architect is to look at every single interaction and make a conscious, deliberate choice about the right tool for that specific job. So I'll leave you with this final thought to take with you. When you're designing your own systems, are you only building them for the happy path, for the days when everything works perfectly? Or are you building them for the real world, architecting them not just to succeed, but to gracefully survive failure? The answer to that question will define just how robust and resilient your systems truly are. Thanks so much for joining me.